What's good, y'all? Wave Magnetic here, and I'm gonna show you how I produced the drop on our track Rain. It's actually on our latest EP, the Magnetik EP. So like when I started producing the song, I actually came up with the melody first. The first thing was I produced everything out with synths and the chords and all of that kind of stuff before I started layering in like horns and the vocals and whatnot. So the first thing was I came up with this melody here, and it was this synth sound that I had right here. And like that right there, it sounds pretty cool. It sounds dope. So what I was thinking was I could take that and I could actually layer it. So one of the cool things is when I layer different parts, I always think about covering like what frequency range I want to cover. So with this being like a really big melody, I want to cover the bottom, the middle, and the top. So like that right there is the middle synth. So then I added this lower synth here, which is this. These are the two, the mid and the low together. And all of that's pretty cool too. So that gave me the bottom end, and I felt like it needed some more top energy. So then I added this synth right here. So you get it. It's like each synth, it just covers a certain part of the frequency range. So like this. That's all them highs up there, like super highs. We got this mid. And then I got the super low. But that's still not a bass or anything. But like with that, I was like, okay, that's cool. So that's the melody. And then I wanted to layer in my trumpets. So when I'm layering in the horns though, I always do, well not always, but a lot of times when I want it to really like come through and be super big, I usually layer each part with 5 horns. So I have like 1 in the center and 2 on the sides. And let's see, this one voice is this is 5 horns together. Right, so like that right there is the top. Then I have, again, the mids. So like that's a harmony part right there. So on top of that, I add the low. So I actually take like a trombone type approach to it. So I take the trumpet and I pitch it down. It's the same thing, 5, 1 in the center, 2 on the sides. And so like that's all super cool. And so when I record these two, the horns, you know, it's live, and this is kind of like a pop track, you know, dance track. So everything's got to kind of be cutting through. So I actually record all of my horns and vocals through a compressor and a really cool preamp. I use like a lot of the warm audio stuff. This is a warm audio microphone. This is actually what is this thing called? I'm not even sure, but it's it's a tube mic that warm audio makes. But I record through their 1176, the warm audio 76, and I use the tone beast. All the vocals and the horns are going through the tone beast and the 1176 like off the bat, so I can hit it with some good compression and get it to sound closer to what I wanted to sound like as an end product. And so when I do that, that gets it to sit right with the leads. So with the leads, all of the leads and the horns together sound something like this. See what I'm saying? So like I hit that with those compressors off the jump, so we get a good start. And then it's just basically like EQing it. On this particular thing, this particular track, I was using the API stuff. A little top end, a little bit of that, a little bit of the low mids to kind of make it fat and whatnot. It's funny how I'm doing this. Like I don't always nowadays. I don't really. Some of these things I'm not really doing the same kind of way, but it's the same type of EQ here. A little bit of high end right here, get that crunch right there, and then a little bit of the low mids just to make it a little bit fat. And I hit it with another compressor to again make it so that it gels and so it sits right in the front. But that's just part of it, because then after I do that, I do a lot of like parallel processing. This right here is that's the dry track, but this right here is parallel compression with another 1176, the blue stripe one. But the way I have it set up, I'm doing the parallel compression where the left and the right are doing different things. So I guess it's like dual mono. It's like dual mono or something. So when the left side gets loud, it compresses it, but it doesn't compress the right side. So it's always kind of going like this. Keeps the stereo image kind of wide and strong, but it still keeps it forward. And I do it in parallel, so you get that solid center, but you also get a little bit of motion on the sides. That's kind of what you've been listening to already. So let's hear it without that. Oh, also, I also use distortion. So I use the decapitator in parallel. So like when we take it out, it sounds like this. And when you put it in, keeps it nice and juicy, keeps it right in the front, and keeps it really exciting. I also added this really cool shifter to kind of add a, just like a pitch thing. It's more of a creative idea. Check it out. Just so that some of the notes go wah like that, and yeah, this keeps it interesting. Let's see here. Next thing is the chords. Again, I take that same approach where I am adding the low chords. Right, and then here's the high. And when you put those two together, so you're hearing all of this pumping. So it's like I actually use the LFO tool to kind of have some kind of motion with it. It's just making it go in time, and I got to set the eighth notes. It keeps the beat moving, so it's just not static chords or whatever. You can play with that. But I also have this going on. So what I do is I have my drums. They are in a group, and then right here I take everything else that's not drums, and I put them in a group called All Music. And inside that group, that's the group that I do all of the sidechain compression. So I have a sidechain to the kick. And right here, this one is the ghost kick. I have a sidechain to the kick, and I also have it sidechain to the snare. So that's a lot of the pumping that you're hearing that's going on. I can take that off until I show you the drums and everything a bit. Let's see here. So the next thing is that I got this bass going on. And it's the same basic concept. I got CLA on here, just a little bit of compression, and then I have some EQ. One of the things about bass for me is I like the mid frequencies for bass to really come through. So with this bass, it was already pretty distorted or whatever, so I mostly was just doing EQ on here. And this right here, I just boost around 240. Sometimes it's 300 ish, you know, and I just added around 100. This right here is a shelf, so this kind of boosts up everything below 100. And yeah, so let's see what all of that sounds like. Pretty distorted, pretty regular type thing. But the cool thing too that I do to make sure that my kick drum is really coming through and I don't lose the bass is that I have this side chain where every time the kick comes down, this right here, everything around like 50 hertz, I think this is set to 50. Yeah. So this makes more of the low frequencies come out, like even less of the low frequency every time the kick comes, so that the kick can really come through. And then I also have every time the kick comes, you can see I boost around 700 to have more presence. So sometimes when you have all of this sidechain compression, the bass can get lost. And I kind of figured out a little way to do like well, so that it's like a dynamic EQ that's connected to the kick. So watch these knobs move. You see, so that's every time the kick is hitting, right? So if we listen to the drums, we can hear what the pattern is that's going on. So this is actually the drum beat together. So yeah, it's a cool beat, you know, it's like future bass type stuff. And to get this kick to be very much forward and punchy, there's a few things I did to it. Where again, I've been using the API on this particular track. I'm not using this actually that much anymore. I'm using more of the SSL-G channel now. But you know, this is what I did at that time. So again, I'm getting at 100 hertz. I'm boosting about 2 dB. And let's see, I'm hitting 5K to get some of the top end on that. Yeah, it's not much. I'm taking off a little bit of 10K, but you know, that's because you don't really need much 10K on a kick drum. But I am compressing it here, and I'm making sure that the EQ is after the compressor. I don't really like to compress my drums, or not drums, just the kick and the snare. No, just the kick. I like to compress the kick first and then EQ it, because if I EQ into the compressor, it kind of brings that, I don't always get the low end that I'm looking to get. So if you check it out, I'll turn it on and off. So you can hear that, like that right there made the kick drum really do its thing. Also, I have a snare and a clap going together. So that's the snare and the clap together individually. So when I put these together, I treated it as they were one sound. So when I did what I was going to do on these, I just ran it into this one SSL compressor, boost a little bit of top end, get a little bit of snap, that crunch on there. Let's see. Okay, I put a little 500 in there. I guess it was needed that. And the tone of it. So all that. Off. Yeah, that makes that crack. Let's see here. Then we have these hi-hats and cymbals and whatnot. I kind of treat them all the same. I just run them all through just some EQ to get some top end on it and take off some of the low end. It's pretty simple, regular stuff. But then one of the cool things is my bus. I always run the bus. I run it through a bus chain. So I get those sounding pretty good the way they are. And then I ran it through the, what is this? This is the API API compressor that's through Plugin Alliance. I like it. It's dope. It's fine. But let's see with it on and off. So this is the compressor off and on. On. So again, that adds a little bit more snap, a little bit of glue between the snare and the kick, because a lot of times one of the things is that the snare drum, you might get it to sound like, oh yeah, that seems like it's cool, but sometimes your snare can be a lot louder than your kick or a lot under your kick. And one of the things that this compressor does is that it helps, even after you do other compression and other EQ to get it to sound right, now you got to get the drums to sound like they're one. And this right here just kind of makes it so that the snare and the kick and the hi-hats and all the other stuff, they kind of come together so that one isn't like extremely louder than the other, but it just kind of locks it in together and makes it a little more punchy. The next thing I did was I added the decapitator. I wanted to add a little bit of distortion because, again, I'm trying to make these drums knock. So with it on and off. Again, it makes it stand out just a little bit, cuts it through just a little bit. And each little thing you do, it just adds a little bit more. And those little small steps all add up to be a big thing. And then the next thing I did was I added some tape compression on here. The Waves was this J37. Again, more glue, a little bit of distortion, and it rolls off the top a little bit on the hi-hat so they don't get so like, you know what I'm saying? Like they can just be a little too much sometimes. So with it on and off. And when all those little things, they add up to be a really big thing. And it makes it so that the drums can really stand out. And like those are all the parts that are on this drop. But the interesting thing is that when I'm doing all of this mixing and putting all of this together, I actually do this with my master bus already on. So my master bus really helps to get the sound together. When I have the Pro Q on and off, it sounds like this. The Pro Q on there is not really doing that much. It's just kind of making it so that my limiter isn't going crazy. Then I add my NLS. Yeah, that's not really doing much right there. That's just, yeah, just a little bit. Right here. So now I have my my SSL compressor now on and off. So off. So if you notice, when I turned it on, the kick drum really started punching through a lot more. And that was kind of the point of that. That's what that helped with. Making it just a little bit more snappy. Now the API one, this one is only doing above 240. So with this is hitting everything above that kick and keeping it kind of nice and like together. Okay, so that like the bass will stand out a little bit more, everything will stand out just a little bit more. Again, I'm hearing it. It's like it's just coming through just a little bit more, just a little bit more. Everything is just doing just a little bit to add more flavor. Now with this, this is the Puig Tech. So with this one right here, I'm boosting at 60 3, I'm boosting at 12K, 4.1. Whatever that means, I'm boosting it there because it seemed to sound good. So I'm going to turn it on and off. Now you hear how that changed it. That was like almost night and day right there. That changed a whole lot right there. Yeah, so it gives me a little low end, a little high boost, and it has a little bit of distortion or whatever in it that sounds kind of sweet. The next thing I do, which I do all the time now, is, you know how I said I do parallel compression. So this is with an 1176, where the parallel split, where the left and the right are doing different things. This is what I do to again, it pushes everything a little bit more forward, but it gives me that stereo wideness at the same time, so that it's not like all mono. It's coming up in a really nice way. This is actually one I learned from watching like Andrew Sheps. So I'm gonna turn this on and off. That right there makes it sound like a finished record. Like, that is like, geez, just that parallel compression, that, or what does he call it? He calls it the rear bus. Putting that rear bus in there, man, that really makes it pop. And so after that, it just got, you know, a little bit of a limiter. This is a clipper and little EQ, boosting the high end just a little bit right here. And the limiter, just so that, you know, it's a little bit louder. This isn't the limiter that I used. I'm using like Ozone, but I have this on here right now just because I don't want my computer to blow up while I'm making this video. But yeah, and I have all of my reverbs and everything set up over here. So I have a plate, I have a medium room, and I have this kind of whooshy kind of reverb and a bunch of delays and whatnot. And I just send them to taste with the different instruments, the trumpets and all the different things. So listen to it one time through. This is the whole thing. Let's make sure that I don't have anything off. Seems like everything's cool. So this is the whole drop on Rain. Thank y'all for checking this out. All right, y'all. Hopefully you learned something, and hopefully this was helpful to see how we work on some of this music. And I'll see you guys on the next one. Peace!